What's going on, you guys? It's 12, so it's noon. I want to say, when it's noon, do we say good afternoon? Noon, sir? Noon, ma'am? Whatever. I try not to give it too much thought, but anyways, hello, you guys. My name is Vincent Julius, and there's some daily talk stuff with you guys. You know, I like to share some things and, things that are good for the soul, good for your ears. It's just good things to relate to people about, and understanding that we all kind of go through something similar. And yeah, I'm just gonna get into it. So me and my wife, we made a recent video. It was a very vulnerable post. I'm speaking too fast. I'm learning how to speak a little bit slower in such ways to enunciate my words and whatever, but it was a very vulnerable post. And it's vulnerable because we posted the video to social media, to the mass, to the multiples. And if you know me, if I'm in front of you, like if we're talking, I can open up in that way and talk with you easily without feeling like it's pretty easy to talk about. But when it's in this manner, it's a little bit different because I know where this is going. And sometimes this can be attracting in its own way. It can attract different shapes and things and all different types of stuff. But I don't care about those things, because the most important thing is to share this message for those who need to hear it, as I am going through this thing and understanding this part. With that video that me and my wife did was, lean on your spouse. Another words, cleave to your spouse, cleave to your wife, cleave to your husband. Nothing else. Nothing, nada. Cleave to each other, because when we try to take on our own burdens by ourselves with no support to help us through it, it becomes harder, because three things are happening. I thought two, but three came to mind. One, my own. Two, her own. Three, our own. Three things. So there's a lot of weight for us to try to balance out when one hand's holding my own, one hand's holding both of ours. And on her end, same thing, vice versa. She's holding her own and then try to hold both of ours. There's too much distraction going on. There's too much diverseness going on. We need to put all of our weight in one area, so that way it's easier to be carried. And ultimately me, because I'm the head, I'm the one who is bringing her to a place of peace, and it's my job, especially as the spiritual leader of the family, as a husband, as the head, as I'm learning how important it is. And I've been told that nobody's perfect. No marriage is perfect, no relationship is perfect, no one man is perfect. So I'm really coming to the terms of why it's important to cleave to my wife. As I kind of basically said it to you in a nutshell, was me holding my own weight. If we're living together and I'm trying to focus on one little aspect of these things that's going on and not the whole aspect of things, I tend to pull away to something else that isn't as beneficial for her and me. Is only beneficial for me to an extent. It's only to an extent, because it's only going to satisfy one part of things, not the whole thing. And the importance of me doing it with her is so vital, because when we do things together, we're stronger together. We can move as one together. There's one head and one body, not two heads and one body. That's a monster. That's not a human created thing, but we all do it. If you think about it, we all do it, even in just friendships. Like, there's two heads sometimes, and we got to know which part of the body that we are. And in a simple case for a husband and wife, I'm the head, she's the body. She's also this part. This is a vital area, because if she is wanting to go this way, the neck is trying to turn that way, and my head's not going this way. You can see the imagery, and I'm like, we are not moving in one direction. And that becomes troublesome, because now we're adding our own burdens, our own stressful, anxiety, fearful areas by ourselves, and we're trying to handle it ourselves, and it's not working, because now as we have our own stuff going on, there's this thing in the middle that needs attention too. So, as of recently, I talked to my brother, my spiritual counselor. Um, he was basically saying, you guys got to come to an agreement, or come into agreement, not to an agreement, into an agreement, and pray with each other day and night, read the word with each other day and night. Because even in the midst of things that's happening, that's not comfortable, that is causing things that happen, when we do that, we actually become stronger together. We find a place of peace, because reading the word and praying brings peace to us, because in reading the word, we can then understand how easy it is to speak life over our circumstances. You may be behind in something, you may be struggling with some health stuff, you may be whatever the case may be, but you speak over that circumstance like, I am healed. My body is hurting, but it's healing now. It's becoming stronger based off of your word, God. And I want to give thanks in advance for you healing me. And it may not happen right away, but it's happening. And so the circumstances doesn't have control over you, over your emotions. You're in control of your emotions now. You're in control of how you can feel about the circumstance, and you end up coming out of it. And how you come out of it, when I mean coming out of it, coming out of this feeling that's going on within you, and coming out of it with your partner, so that you guys can come into an agreement. I keep saying into agreement, and we become stronger together. We're coming out of our circumstances and not letting it take control of us, and we're holding on to each other now, and we have that peace, knowing that I got her back, she got my back, I can help her out, she can help me out, she can encourage me with some words, I can encourage her with some words, and we're helping each other out. We're communicating, we're loving on each other, we're giving each other grace, because sometimes we forget to give ourselves grace. We give everybody else grace except for ourselves. I deserve grace just as much as her, so I'm gonna give her grace, so that way she can give me grace, and I can remember to give myself grace, so that way she can remember to give herself grace. The only way that can happen is when we come together and to realize that we need that. We're human beings at the end of the day. Ain't nobody perfect, So it's important to lean and cleave to your wife, to your husband. It's important because we become stronger together. We're learning how to operate this body together and as one, so that way we know who's the head. And even if it doesn't make sense, we know who's the head, and we have this piece of understanding. My boy Storm, he's my spiritual counselor, but he was saying sometimes his significant other, have some moments that's bothering her for the day or whatever, and he says, "Babe, can I pray for you? Can I pray over you?" And she said, "Yeah." And he prays over her, and they pray together, and she feels totally better. Complete 180. She feels 10 times better. And that's how important it is to pray and cleave to your significant other, because they need it. Who is doing it for them? He said this, man, a lot of us, for those who are prayer warriors, for those who pray, for those who understand the prayer, that prayer is very strong and powerful. When you pray over your family and your friends and whatnot, we do so much of that for others, and there's nothing wrong. We should do those things because it's important. But we also should pray over ourselves. You know what I mean? That's so important. And when we forget to do that, we see their circumstance or their situation gets better. We're like, yeah, God, let's go. And then here's some things that's happening with us. We're like, yo, God, what's up? I prayed over this. What's up? And he's like, nah, you didn't pray over this. You prayed over that over there. This right here is still happening. You haven't loosed me from heaven to help you out here on earth. You haven't loosed me yet. You haven't been in communication with me about you and your spouse. You've been in communication about other people, other things that has nothing to do with you. Thank you for praying over them. They got through it. Cool. What about us? What about you? So it's important for those in a relationship, I'll get to those who are solo, for those who are in a relationship, who are married, even if you're not married, to pray over your significant other. If prayer isn't your thing, speak life over them. Don't speak death. And what I mean by that is, don't speak, oh man, they ain't doing nothing, man. They talk about this, but then this and that. You know what I mean? You're speaking death. They're not gonna get through this. They're gonna have a tough time. You're speaking death over them. You're not speaking life over them. You're not helping them out. And that's your significant other. That's your other half. You gotta know, if you talk about them, you're talking about you, because they go down with you. Speak life over them, saying, hey, you're gonna make it through this thing. I know you're gonna find some way. I don't know exactly what it's gonna be, but you're gonna get through it. Watch how this is going to change up on you. You're going to feel so much greater when it does. You're speaking life over them. You're giving them the strength to break through, to know that there's there is hope in these circumstances, because this too shall pass. This too is only for a season. So it's important to speak that life over your significant other, over your friends and family. It's so important. And they may be going through stuff, they may be walking themselves into it, but because nobody's speaking life over them, they're only speaking about their situation that they're going through, and not actually trying to speak of a better situation, a better circumstance. They're not trying to, because they don't think they're over themselves. That's why it's important to pray over you, so that way you can pray over others and speak life over them instead of death. Speak life over them. It's so important, because, me and my wife, I told her, hey, baby, remember when I used to say, hey, let's pray that nobody's speaking some stuff over us that isn't in line with God's will over our lives. Let's pray against that. And she was like, you're right, we should. And I was like, yeah, we should, because we don't know who's talking about us. We may not hear, but we feeling it. You know what I mean? Because some people are talking about us in the limelight that isn't great. So you have to rebuke that off you, because if it is in line with God's word, they're attracting that into your life. They don't know that they're probably the cause of what's happening in your life. That's the irony about it. So pray over your soul, pray over your significant other, pray together, so that way you guys have strength together, strength in numbers. Okay, not in one, strength in numbers. I'll leave it at that. Okay. For those who are single, for those who are just solo, not even really thinking about the relationship, but I know sometimes, you see relationships, you want one. I get it. Sometimes when we do things that isn't good, like what you do in the dark that nobody knows about, and even if you have some inkling of an understanding of who and what God is, sometimes we run from that. We hide ourselves, or even from your significant other, but family member in your life, or like if you're living with your mom or your dad or your sister or whatever, you do something and you kind of hide from that part of them. You build up this wall that you don't want to have anybody see over, and so you build it up. Sometimes it's better to lean into that, lean into God, pray to God, lean into your housemate who's there, who can help you through it, and you might have done something that has to do with them. Lean into them and tell them, hey, I did this thing. I just want to apologize. I'm sorry. Because now you built this, you don't have this defense wall up for something that they didn't do, but you did it. So now you're trying to defend yourself against it. That ain't right, because you're making things worse. You're not making it better. You're protecting yourself from the thing that you did wrong. And it's better to come to those terms quicker than later, so that way it doesn't build up, because they're going to look at you like, why didn't you tell me it's been this long? And and it isn't any better, but it's better to get it off your chest than later. Dang, something came up as I was talking about that. Forgiveness. Forgive yourself. It's very important to forgive yourself. But as you forgive yourself, forgive the person who's done something against you. Even if you're the victim of that thing, this is for the other person who's on the other side of the wall. If they did something against you, forgive them. Forgive them. Because if you don't forgive them, that feeling of resentment, a little bit of hate, malice, whatever, wrath in your heart will build up so much against that person, and even those around you who are innocent. Because somebody else around you who is innocent, who doesn't know what happened to you, may say something that might trigger some knee-jerk reaction in you, and you're feeling that wrath towards them, and it has nothing to do with them. It has to do with that single place that you were affected from in the first place, because you are holding in some resentment in you that has nothing to do with anybody anymore at this point. I mean, yeah, that person hurts you, but forgive them. You have to forgive them, because they may not know what they've done. They may not know the impact that it was going to have on your life. So forgive them, so that way you can be released from them and they can be released from you. It's crazy probably when I say you, and they are in you. That memory, that energy is in you, and you're holding on to it. So you got to forgive them. Forgive them for that hurt. Forgive your mom and your dad for the things that they didn't do. Forgive them for the things that they did. Forgive that person in your high school, middle school, grade school, whatever, for what they said or did to you. Forgive them. You have to let it go. You got to move forward. You got to, because if you don't, you're going to stay stuck in that. And the more life goes on, the more you're going to keep stacking things onto that, and it's going to get worse and worse and heavier and heavier. And the heavier it becomes, that resentment turns into wrath. That wrath turns into anxiety. Sometimes anxiety turns into stress, and that stress turns into depression. And everybody knows what comes after depression. I don't even have to say it, because you know. Okay? If you don't know, I don't know how old you are that's watching this and still learning life, but if you don't know what comes after depression, is suicide. Okay? Suicide is a permanent decision for a temporary situation. I got that one from Miles Monroe. Some people have made, lots of people in this world, I shouldn't say some, but people have made a permanent decision for a temporary situation. It was temporary, but they ended their life because they wanted to run from that thing that was hurting them. It became so heavy and burdensome, and let it go. It's easier said than done for some, but it really isn't, because you got to loose that tongue. Your mind can't keep up with what your tongue is saying, so your tongue needs to be ahead of yourself and say it, so that way your mind can catch up. It's gonna shake your world up, but it's gonna make you so much better. Forgive them, move forward. Same for you married couples, forgive them. Let it go, because you don't want to build that wall up against your significant other. They're there in your life. You guys are one. You're putting a wall up against yourself. You're hurting yourself more than you're hurting them, but you are hurting them. That's the thing. Both sides are getting hurt. Stop the hurt. Cleave to each other, forgive each other, give each other grace, love on each other, pray over each other, read the word together day and night, as we are going to be doing as well. But stay honest, stay consistent. It's not hard to fall off, but it's not hard to stay on it either. Just build that habit up. Just do it, because it's for the better good. When you have that connection with somebody, you feel the grace, you feel the love, you feel the peace, you feel it, you feel the harmony, you feel the unity. It's good for the household. It's good for the soul, because all these things that we look at in terms of materialistic, cars, money, house, things, it's going to pass away. It's going to be gone. You're going to die one day, and that stuff is not going to be here for you. Not to chase a rabbit, I feel it. But make sure you leave something for the next person, whatever that may be. Leave some wisdom for them, for your children. Leave some good stuff for them. If you have a house for them, great. Teach them how to run that house and how they can work in the house, where the house won't be a liability for them, but it's an asset. Teach them. Learn some financial wisdom, some financial maturity. Understand that, as I'm learning right now, and I have to break an old nature of me, because I didn't grow up with that. That wasn't the thing. So I'm leaning into something that's very uncomfortable, but I'm learning some things though. I'm learning this so that way I can walk in this and eventually have my son see this and understand it himself, so that way he has financial wisdom and knowing what to do with whatever comes his way. He's not going to be stuck, or not as stuck, because people get stuck in things. So he's not going to be perfect. I know it, but I want him to have enough wisdom and knowledge and understanding to be able to come through those things, to find a way out. You know what I mean? So that way he's not in a financial burden. He's in a good place. You know, I want him to have that maturity, but I got to get there too. I got to get there first, so that way I could show him how to get there. I could talk about it all day until I'm actually walking in it, which I am still walking in it. It takes time to get to that place. It takes time for things to register, which is why I loose my tongue, so that way when I get there, it's going to be like, bam. But I got to work there, right? I got to work my way to it. So anyways, you guys, love on your partner, cleave to your partner, pray over them, touch them, kiss them, words of affirmation, quality time, acts of service, words of affirmation, physical touch. Bring those areas back to life in that relationship, because sometimes we need it. Sometimes we forget, because we're so focused on our own stuff. You're not your own anymore. You belong to somebody and they belong to you. It's just the same as a child. As I'm learning right now, that my son belongs to me, and I got to help him along the way until he's able to actually metaphorically speaking, walk on his own 2 feet and use his mind and his hands and his mouth and his eyes and his ears. You know, I got to teach him those things as he grows, so that way as he goes into this world, he has a better grasp and a stance on what and how to adjust if he needs to, you know. So yeah, you guys, forgive those who've hurt you. I know it sucks, but let it go. Don't hold on to it. Don't let it fester anymore in you, because you're suffering more than they are. They're probably living their life. Or they may actually be gone. They may be dead already. You can't say your piece. It's not true. You can. You still can. Let it go. Don't let it die with you. Let it go. Let it out. Cry it out. Cuss it out. Get it out. Get it out, so that way you can start bringing in the good, the prosperous, the harmony, the love. You get what I'm saying? All right, guys, I'm out. Love you guys. Vincent Julie's here in the building. I'll see you guys in the next one. Deuces.